Hello out there. This is Old Buck Dave back at you again with
Old Buck Dell
Old Buck Dale is here with me, live and in person.
in the studio.
In the studio. The world travels are done for a while. So it's good to welcome Dell back again.
Good to see you.
Good to have him alive. We were talking the other day about getting together for coffee, and you said wait, I'm doing a social experiment here. Do you want to tell everybody about that social experiment you did?
Okay, the social experiment. We had agreed to have coffee like we we've been doing for years, and you picked a place, and so while you were on your way, I noticed on the street where the coffee shop was, I had passed several people that were, I'm assuming, homeless. They had their gear with them. They were sitting on the sidewalk with a sign that said, "Please help."
Right. Right.
Very simple messages and so on and so forth. So I decided that I would perform an experiment. Now, this is a clear, nice day, mid-morning, not quite lunchtime where there's a lot of activity, but enough walking traffic. I'm dressed in casual attire. Decent, clean-shaven, and I decide to sit on a stone wall and hold up a sign. So I prepare my sign.
So you were panhandling, basically.
Basically,
this was a panhandling test.
Pretty much. Okay. I met the criteria for being a panhandle. I'm sitting on a wall, looking kind of, I don't know, kind of...
Old.
Yeah, well, just sitting
old
there.
And beat up.
Yeah. So I'm sitting there, and I've got a sign. I'm holding up a sign to people, which would indicate that I am asking for money. So I set up my program, and I'm sitting there, and people are walking by. And just like I expected, as soon as they saw me, they would do a quick eye focus from sort of the ground up, make a very quick survey, see that I was holding a sign, and they would look away. They would look to each other, look up, look down, look at their phone.
You were invisible at that point.
I was invisible. I became invisible when I
became invisible.
Yeah. And so I waited till several people had gone by, and the two that I remember there was two ladies walking by. And I'm looking right at them. I mean, I am just looking right at their faces as they're walking by. And they quickly turn and face each other and keep talking until they're beyond me. And then they start looking down again. I wanted to say something to them, but I didn't want to get hit in the head with a purse or something.
I didn't want to be assertive. Right.
I don't want to be too obnoxious. Yeah. So after all this is done, I then meet you for coffee, and I'm telling you the story, and you basically say, well, what was on your sign? So this, on my sign, on the paper that I'm holding up, it says, if you will make eye contact with me, I'll give you $10.
Right. You showed me the sign.
and nobody
cashed in.
Nobody cashed in. Nobody even looked at it. It's like all I wanted them to do was read the sign.
Yeah.
But I think people in this neighborhood really are so jaded from the sort of the homeless population that even signs like, you've just won the lotto. If you shake my, say hello to me, I'm a millionaire. I'll give you. So,
but it just shows how we've kind of marginalized.
Right.
People.
We laughed about that, and we immediately sat down and changed the subject to other things and had our coffee just like old times. So anyhow, that's my panhandling story.
That was your social experiment. That was an interesting experiment.
I recommend anybody try that.
Yeah.
If you have the courage to sit on the road and hold up a sign, you can try something.
So, Mr. Dell.
Yes.
Thank you for the social experiment.
And making it short, a short story.
Yeah, it was a short story. Okay. Hey, I want to tell you about something that I've experimented with lately. You've probably seen these advertisements on TV. They're kind of showing up everywhere now for this. It's called Master Class.
Yeah, I've seen
All
it.
right, you've seen that? All
I've
right.
seen
So a friend of mine was talking to me about the master class, and she said, she says, I like the political ones, blah, blah, blah. But these are, she said, I'll send you a free week. You can try it free for a week, and if you like it, you can sign up for it, and it's $180 a year, but you get a 7-day trial. And so I thought,
and you would get sent or access to all these interviews.
You would have access to all these video recordings of these classes, all by experts. Now, I was interested in writing, in writers, and listening to writers. But you can find classes on anything, on singing, acting, cooking, gardening, any kind of sport.
Is it a class, Dave?
Well, there are a series of video recordings. Okay, basically the person is sitting in a big comfy chair, and they're telling you about the topic. Well, they're maybe not always sitting in a chair, because it could be sports, there's a master class on DJing.
So if I was a master mechanic or something, I could sit down and tell you something about that.
There's probably a master class for oil changes or something. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
So
you choose a subject area.
You choose a subject. It's just a myriad of subjects.
Pretty much like listening to two old bucks, right? You know, I mean, we have
you kind
we're
of
citizens
pick
with
choose.
alternative.
Citizens requiring.
Citizens representative of alternative positions.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So
anyway,
so that's what it is. So anyhow, you did it.
I thought, well, yeah, I'm gonna try it. So I thought I'm gonna do the 7-day binge here. I basically immersed myself in master class, and there's several of them that I really did enjoy. I'm going to point out a couple of them here. So, for example, Neil deGrasse Tyson, he does a series on the principles of science. Great.
I like him.
Great guy, great speaker, good explainer, good teacher. So I enjoyed his, and I forget how many hours his. I didn't listen to all of them, but he's probably had 20 hours worth. I probably listened to 2 or 3 hours. Chris Hadfield, that's the Canadian astronaut, if you recall. He's the guy that sang Major Tom in space. He did a series on space travel. Okay, he did a series of classes on space travel.
Oh, the guy who had the guitar, he managed to get a guitar up to the space station.
So, I mean, he goes into, orbital mechanics and a little bit of history, and it's kind of, it was good for me. It was kind of one of the geekier ones, so I could identify with that. Another good one was Penn and Teller, which I
watched Penn and Teller.
You can watch Penn and Teller.
Yeah.
They expose tricks. They tell you how tricks are done, and they even teach you a couple tricks. And they go through a lot of iterations to show you how to do the trick, and they have a little panel of amateurs there that they're. So that was pretty interesting. And actually, Teller even speaks. Okay, Teller's allowed to speak on this.
I know he's allowed to talk. Yeah.
So, but mainly, I wanted to see what I could pick up about writing, and so I listened to several writers, a couple episodes from each one, and I picked up some good things and some not so great things as well. But just want to touch on a couple of these. Malcolm Gladwell, Malcolm Gladwell.
How to write, is that the object of the?
Yeah. So Malcolm Gladwell is he's got a series of videotapes here on writing, and I guess what the couple points that I took from his lesson was, number one, you should put conflict or tension in the title of your piece. Okay. So right away he said, you got to have a good title. You got to have a good title that reflects the tension that is going to be experienced in the story. Like Mud, for example. Okay. Mud. I wrote something else down that he said. He said, the story is what happens. The plot is why and how it happens. That's good. It's pretty basic, but it's good. Makes sense. I listened to several of them, and I noticed that some of them had idiosyncrasies along the way.
You mean while they were speaking?
Yeah,
that kind of
while they were speaking. For example, Margaret Atwood. Okay, one of my favorite authors, actually. Handmaid's Tale. She's most famous for that.
Oh, yeah.
She's done. I read a couple of her books anyway. A good point that she made, she said, read the text out loud to see how it sounds. Okay, that's really good advice, actually, when you think about it. And she said, if you got a lot of a lot of P sounds or S sounds, she said it doesn't sound as right. So just just revise it to get rid of some of that stuff.
So what I'm hearing here is that if it sounds, there's a lot of pronunciation quirks in your literature.
Yeah.
It probably won't read well, and go ahead and revise it. So that's her trick.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting. And she said the beginning of the story is the doorway. She says, tell, but don't tell too much right away. Mm-hmm. And that's something that a lot of authors say. I think that's really good advice. Don't lay the whole story out in the first paragraph.
Right.
Don't explain every character.
Make your reader at least go to page 35
there
to
you
get an
go.
idea what the book's about. Based on the title.
Yeah.
All right, yeah.
There's something else I noticed about Margaret Atwood, though, and I hope she's probably not listening to this episode. I think she's listened to some of them, but that was a joke.
You're deluding yourself.
I'm deluding
Margaret
myself.
Atwood listens to Two Old Bucks.
But what I noticed is she laughs through her nose. Okay,
and
like for example,
please don't try to make that sound.
I am going to try to make that sound. Like if she makes a funny, what she thinks a funny, she'll go like. She laughs through her nose. It's so strange.
Oh, okay.
So she's human, I guess. She's showing she's human. She's got idiosyncrasy.
But you picked up on this, and they video these things. They video.
Well, you just watch her. It's just her, and you're staring at her, and then she starts snorting like that. These soft snorts. It's kind of cute. Anyway, Salman Rushdie. Okay,
I do know Salman.
You know Salman. He says, "Be sure that what you know is interesting."
Ooh.
So,
and that's a fatal flaw in our podcast.
That's a rule that we've failed to follow.
Right, we break that rule all the time. What we think is interesting.
Yeah. And then similar to Malcolm, he says, "Have you said too much or too little? Make sure you're saying the right amount."
Too long or too little.
Yeah. The other thing I noticed about Salman Rushdie is, like every third sentence, he twitches his nose to the left.
Oh, really?
It's funny just to watch this.
This, of course, distracted from your paying attention to how to write the story.
I started counting twitches instead of listening to what he said.
Oh,
but it was pretty good. David Sedaris, who's a favorite of mine, he read some passages. He showed what kind of stuff works and what doesn't work. But he really scared me because he hates dogs, he said. Okay, some people don't like dogs, but why would you record that in your master class? And he said terrible things about dogs that I'm not even going to repeat here.
So anything goes in his master class videos, apparently. They just say what's on their mind, apparently.
Well, yeah, they're in charge. But they're trying to they're trying to give you lessons, but
and all these tips are tricks of the trade for writers that if you apply them, you stand a chance of having
make you a better writer, yeah.
A New York Times bestseller, which of course I think is stamped on every book I've ever seen.
Right.
Ever. It's a New York Times bestseller.
Yeah.
They warned that out, by the way.
Oh boy.
The people in the New York Times must read every one of them.
Read every one
of them.
Read every one of them. Yeah. But my favorite writing class, my favorite writing stuff author was Walter Mosley. He's a guy who's done, he's basically a crime writer. He's done some science fiction as well. I really love, he was the most interesting. He was the most animated. He gave a lot of examples.
What was his character? What was his detective?
I can't tell you the name of the characters.
Usually there's some favorite.
He
detective.
did. He had
Hercule Poirot or something.
He had a character.
Like
if I'd actually taken the time to be prepared for this, I could have given you all that information.
Again, you need.
But I'm just
you
winging
need to
it.
Read this stuff ahead of time.
Read this stuff ahead of time, Dave. There's if you give a master class, that would be one of the tips.
Oh.
Read the stuff ahead of time
before you do your video.
But anyway. Yeah. But overall, I thought the classes were more like fireside chats, really, than hardcore learning. Lots of things to like, but really not to me. I'm more of a give me the
what?
Give me the points. Give me the things I have to do. What do I have to do right?
Now, if you take
it's
in
more,
your first sentence include the word dog and cat or something.
Yeah. That's just me. But anyway,
a body was found. It was a dark and stormy night, like Snoopy writes when he's Snoopy never got anything published. By the way, I've been following Peanuts for the last 50 years.
Anyway, so
that's your story of the
that was my
masterclass.
master class story. A lot of people enjoy it. It wasn't for me, but
Right.
take the 7-day trial, folks, and make your own choice.
To me, if we were doing a master class thing, I'd say get yourself a couple of microphones, call yourself a podcaster.
Just like we did.
That's right, just like we did.
Yeah.
And you get yourself a listener, and you delude yourself into thinking that you're
Maybe you'll get
that
two
you're
or
funny.
2 or 3 someday. Yeah. That's all true.
And don't fall asleep. I know there's a lady out there just about ready to nod off.
Okay, changing gears a little bit. Dale has read another interesting article in Smithsonian that he wants to talk about, educate me a little bit. This is in our series of winged insects. We've already talked about lanternflies. He's taught us about lanternflies, and then recently we talked about cicadas. So what creature are we going to talk about today?
Marvelous, colorful, migratory monarchs.
The monarch butterfly.
The monarch butterflies. This is in the Smithsonian magazine, and it is the latest issue. It is the May 2021 Smithsonian magazine issue. It's a short article, but absolutely fascinating. And it says Where the Monarchs Go. That was the title of the article. And you're going to ask me, why is it so fascinating?
Why is it so fascinating?
Well, we were talking not long ago about the master class,
and
sure.
Then
it says in your title, it says one of nature's most extraordinary spectacles unfolds in the 10,000-foot high conifer forests of Michoacán, Mexico. In mid-November, swirling orange and black clouds appear in the skies above the monarch butterfly biosphere reserve, a 139,000-acre sanctuary carved out of the transvolcanic belt by the Mexican government in 2008. Millions of butterflies alight on ornamental firs, pines, and junipers, and it goes on. Doesn't that grab you?
Oh, boy, yeah.
Right.
It's a great opening.
Okay, great opening. This marvelous creature does this great migration. Everybody agrees to that. But they said, how do they find their way back? Are there little kind of like transformers on their leg where they're able to, access, Garmin or... No.
Magnetic field lines?
No. No contraire, sir.
No contraire.
So anyhow, the monarchs, it's several generations to make this trip. I got to admit, for years, I always thought it was just one butterfly flying up to California,
it's only
laying
one.
some eggs and then flying back. But in reality, it's several generations to make this trip. So they're trying to figure out how they are able to get back to the same spot. And I think it's a marvelous, marvelous possibility. You think about that. Somehow they have sensors that can track the sun. They don't fly at night. And these sensors have to keep the sun in a certain position in the sky. And they're able to follow the sun's path in the sky.
Wow.
Back to Mexico. However, the poor monarchs are having their habitat destroyed along the way. They need the milkweed, and they need these I would think these, I guess, must have taken a lot of years to decide where these things would be, how far they could fly before they they couldn't overshoot their landing spot. They had to land someplace within their flying zone. But
they don't fly continuously.
No, but they fly so far. They can go so far, then they have to stop and eat, and they molt and they reproduce and make caterpillars and start all over again. But if you take all that out of their loop, if you destroy that portion, which apparently we've done on the border with Texas, there's no place for them to stop, and you could wipe out a whole generation, because there's no more. So anyhow, they managed to go through this, and one of the finer points that caught my eye in this time was when they get back there, they're at an elevation, and they're not really eating; they're living off the fat.
The stored body fat?
They're living off of stored body fat, and I'm thinking to myself, how much what is the metabolism for a butterfly that you can't even feel on your finger to have enough stored body fat to live through this lean period when there's no, they're not in the caterpillar stage or something.
Wow.
I'm thinking, holy smokes.
We'd live forever if that were the case.
Yeah, I should look so good to live off stored body fat.
Stored body fat.
But it's a sad story. It's an exciting story. If you're into stuff like this, it's sad the possibility of something would happen to them. Now, I have one other question I would throw out to the world: is they must provide some kind of a purpose. I mean, everything has a purpose and a place. So, do they keep the milkweed?
Isn't it pollination?
Yeah, but it could be pollination, or is it just to keep the milkweed, population, the plants in check, or, you think, well, what happens if these things go extinct? I don't know.
We don't know. That's right.
I mean, it could be a disaster. It could find out that the caterpillars serve some particular function, or the fact that predators apparently don't like the taste of these things. They must do something to keep everything. Everything is at a purpose.
Part of the balance of nature, I guess. I mean, look at the big business in bees now, because a lot of bee colonies have been wiped out, and people are traveling around the country
with a truckload of bees
with their beehives to pollinate.
Which means we would have no almonds or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, all I know is that I was fascinated by this story, and it's one of those stories, just enough words and just enough pictures that you can get the gist of it. So if you're interested in butterflies, go ahead and I guess you could Google that.
That's in the most recent edition of Smithsonian Magazine.
Smithsonian Magazine, and I hope we never find out if we took them out.
We hope they don't
take them out of the loop.
Yeah.
And but they're being threatened by loggers because they're on these beautiful, pristine forests, and those logs are just standing there thinking, we'll just sneak in and take a couple acres of these things because we can make a bundle, and that's the home for these little guys.
Yeah.
So, and we want to squash any rumors, any conspiracy theories that they have teeth.
They have no teeth.
They have no teeth.
It's kind of like us.
And that's my Monarch butterfly story. Old Buck Dave.
Thank you, Old Buck Dale. That was okay. We're going to have to find another insect for another flying insect.
I'm sure there'll be one out there.
There's probably a couple out there.
Yeah, there's probably a couple more out there. If you have an insect story that you find to be fascinating, go ahead and send that to BUCKSTWOOLD@gmail.com.
That's correct.
Am I correct?
That is correct.
And it's your cicada story,
what if we did a mosquito story?
There's got to be a mosquito. There you go.
I mean, looking at the other side of this, would the world be better off without mosquitoes?
The bats eat the mosquitoes. What are those guys going to eat? We just want mosquitoes that don't trouble us. We want everything that doesn't trouble us.
Absolutely.
So if monarch butterflies had teeth and bit, they would probably trying to eliminate them.
But they wouldn't be so pretty.
Yeah, they wouldn't be so pretty.
Okay. Good food for thought there.
Good food. So.
All right.
And we'll segue over to what's your thoughts here, buddy?
Well, I'm going to segue to something completely different. If you recall...
Monty Python segue now for something completely different.
Something completely different. If you recall, we several segments back, we talked about the website Cameo, where you can sign up and pay your money, and some celebrity or quasi-celebrity
will do a cameo for you.
We'll do a short video for you, or to send it to your friends or whomever as a gift, blah, blah, blah.
I remember that.
Okay. Well, we were kind of ahead of the curve again, because on April 25th, CBS News did a big segment on Cameo and talked about the people, and just wanted to let everybody know we were there first, CBS. So, yeah.
And again, to these are, you pay these celebrities to say something for you on video, like maybe happy birthday,
or make up
a wedding
story.
dress, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, maybe
the sad.
I think the old Bucks even offered to do that too, but then.
Well, we can sign up. We can sign up on Cameo In fact, I think we should.
Sign up for Cameo.
Yeah.
I assume you have to have a pretty face or be recognizable, or at least you have some notoriety. You must be. So anyhow, all the best to the people who do. Yeah, they do that.
Okay.
All the best to those folks.
Take another look at Cameo, folks. Okay, for our next segment, Dale has
a thought.
He's got a thought again. You're hearing it
you
at the
can
same
tell
time
by
I
me
am, folks.
waving my hand at you that you want to call on me, sir.
Me.
Hey, I was going to ask you, do you remember when we were growing up the phrase, you have a woogie in your hooter?
You know, I have to say, I really don't. I was in a different part of town than you, I guess. I don't know.
You were in a slightly different part of town. But
I was on the west side.
You was on the west side. I was on the lower end of town, down near the river. And they would say, hey, man, you got a woogie in your hooter. So you don't know what that means?
I have no idea what that means.
Well, your hooter is your nose.
Okay, I got that.
Okay, and so
I think I see this developing
here. So the woogie is that little mucus bubble that appears in one of your nostrils.
Wait a minute. I just heard 7 more listeners signing off.
No, they're going to want to hear this because
come on back, folks.
Then it occurred to me, and I said to myself, a nose, your nose, everybody's got a peculiar nose. I mean, your nose is designed for your face. Whatever nose you have,
you're stuck with it.
Is the nose you got. And then I said to myself, well, they're all different. They're certainly all functional until they clog up and then you realize you have your nose. They're designed with a good location, right above, your mouth, where you
above your mouth,
where you can smell the food and everything. I mean, great feature is the nose. It wouldn't work. It wouldn't work if it was stuck anyplace else.
That's the best.
We
I'm
agree.
with you now. Yeah.
This is how a brilliant mind works. A genius works thinking like this. Then I said to myself, I wonder, as I was using my index finger to sort of clean a small woogie out of my hooter, I said, I wonder if everybody's finger is designed to fit into their own nose. So you got to figure this is all done proportionally, right? So your finger would definitely fit in your nose. So if you're a little person, you have a smaller finger, would fit into a smaller nose. So I'm just saying that this is such a proportional thing. You can try it now. If you take your finger and put it in your nose.
It's a good thing this is audio.
I'm demonstrating to you now, right?
I'm starting to... My stomach's starting to turn.
Notice you can put it in there and you can turn it and you'll think it. But then you think, well, maybe I need to use the thumb and forefinger method to get something out of the very edge. Is
this going to be a master class?
This could be a master class.
Yeah.
That's expose about how everybody's finger is fortunately designed to perfectly fit into their nose. I think it's a marvelous design feature.
And I'm trying to think of a nice way to end this segment. But go ahead. It's too late.
So if you have a woogie in your hooter, we suggest you cover your index finger with a soft tissue, insert, twirl nicely, pull it out, and you'll feel much better, and people will not point that out to you. Thank you very much, and that's all I'm going to say about that.
And I'd like to point out one other thing. That was Dell's segment. I had no input on that segment.
And did not bring that
sadly
to the table.
Sadly for him, I'm in charge of the editing department, so you may or may not hear that one, folks.
So anyhow, this is Old Buck Dale.
And this is Old Buck Dave.
Saying?
And we're saying adios.
Adios.